Luke Cage, episode 5, Just to Get a Rep. Now this episode, as I mentioned in my last review, I figured would be the sort of superhuman, episode for Luke Cage. And it was kind of funny as I was watching it, because in the beginning, he's just flipping debris. There's only like two people there, but he's, just flipping debris. It's like, whatever, they're, recording videos and stuff. And he's just kind of looking, for things. And I was like, okay, he's kind of outed himself, no big deal. But it didn't really, it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be, because, he's flipping debris, in the beginning of this episode. I'm like, oh, he's going to be outed, and everyone's going to know, like, he's bulletproof and this and that. And a ton of people found out in this episode. But I thought it would just be like, he's doing that in the beginning. People just know now. But, people had to learn as the episode continued on. He has multiple shootouts where people are like, oh, bullets don't work on this guy. So a lot of different people figured it out as the episode went on. But I really like this one. It was Luke kind of being just the local hero. Cottonmouth is like, people were paying I think he called it the Luke Cage stupidity tax. Like, oh, you believe in this guy? Well, here you go. And his play is kind of to have the city itself push Luke out so that he could kind of regain control over everything. So I like that idea. It was just, it was a smart angle. And Luke has to go around and is like, alright, I have to find this dude's guitar, I have to get her tips back, which was one of my favorite scenes this whole episode, when that dude was like, oh, who's this, your boyfriend? And he slapped him unconscious. That was like the funniest thing in the world to me. I was like, it just looks so funny, and he just slapped him. He didn't even like close hand slap him, he just like palmed his head like a basketball, and he just like fell to the ground, and I was like, that's just freaking hilarious to me. So I love that scene. He's going around getting people's stuff back and showing them that he is there to actually help them out. So I thought that was very cool, of course. And then the other big thing is that this episode, by the end, is Pop's funeral. So there's a lot of stuff that he has to do beforehand. And he's like, I want to try to go out and do the right thing as Pop would do before going to his funeral, which leads to, of course, him getting shot multiple times and him having to break people's arms and him breaking that one dude's arm, Amos, famous Amos, as they called him, at the end of the first episode. He like broke the same arm, so he should have a full arm cast. He broke some other dude's arm, and everyone's like, holy crap, and freaking out like this dude is bulletproof and stuff. And Shades in this episode, which I guess he didn't actually recognize him when he was at the barbershop, which really confused me, but I guess they do kind of make a point to show that it's been a long time since that happened, because he was already in jail for months. I would assume he's been on the run for years. It would have to have been years, because he was, with Reva for quite a while. So the fact that he didn't recognize him, or that he did, like, full out recognize him, blew my mind in this episode, because when he looked at him, when they were at the barbershop, I thought he recognized him. I thought they were being coy about it, and they weren't letting it be known, because it's like, oh, that's just a part of our past. No need to bring that up in between all this other craziness. But he actually didn't, so that really confused me when that happened. I was like, oh, I thought he recognized him, and they were playing coy, and I thought that would just develop over time. And then it's like, no, he actually didn't recognize him when they were like, I don't know, 3 feet away, which was really confusing to me when he recognized him in this episode. It's not like he had, I don't know, maybe it's because of the bald thing, I guess. I don't know, this is a giant dude. I mean, someone being bald isn't that big of a difference. But it was really surprising, like when he said that and he like takes the glasses off and he actually says his name and he said it was like a question mark. I was like, did he really not know that that was him when they were like this, at the barbershop? So that I personally thought was really weird, but ultimately I'll probably forget by the time the season actually ends. But I like that idea, because I feel like, once again, in the last episode, when we got to see the history between Luke, Shades, and Kamachi, it was like, alright, what are they going to do with these characters? And I think now, especially, I have my little theory that I'm pretty sure Cottonmouth is going to lose, but Shades as like the sub-villain, he's probably going to continue, and then, we get the whole Diamondback thing. So I am really excited now that they've, I guess, officially done that, because like I said, I thought they knew and they were kind of just keeping it quiet from each other, or, weren't just making a huge deal out of it. And then it was like, no, he, the last episode he escaped, and no one knew that he escaped, and they thought he should have been dead. And, then they kind of bring that up. So it's going to lead to something for sure, and it certainly led to at least a greater mention of Diamondback, and that's kind of what sets Cottonmouth off. Like, all right, we're gonna get these guns, set everything straight. I'll get a loan instead of paying whatever the crazy amount was per bullet, or having Diamondback flat out do it for me. I'll get a front for it, and then I'll pay them back, and I'll just have everything set in order. Use this crazy drill explosive bullet, which is using metal from, I want to say is it the Shi'ar Empire? One of those alien races, whichever one was in the Avengers. There's so many. I don't think it's Shi'ar. I think that's a different dude. But the creatures, that metal, theoretically, that's the room release. That metal is what's being used for those weapons, so it's, undetectable by metal detectors and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool. I was like, all right, greater mention of Diamondback. I'm sure we'll actually get to see the use of these weapons. But at the same time, we might not, because we actually get Scarf in this episode, who not only do we find out is being investigated by Internal Affairs, but we also find out that he gets warned that he's being investigated by I guess, the chief's second in command, I guess. So that was really interesting. We also got to see the chief, because I can't remember. I assume she was in Daredevil season 2, or she was in one of the shows. I would assume Daredevil, though, because they deal with the cops mostly. So we got to see her again, so I was like, oh, that's cool. She came in for like a split second. I feel like she was in there somewhere, or maybe I'm thinking of her from a totally different series I watched. But, we find out that that guy is actually working for Cottonmouth as well. So he's like, all right, we got this guy working on it. He's on payroll as well, so he'll move all the guns out. He gets the guns to the guy, he gets his money, and Scarf has this giant truck of, these Hammer Technologies weapons, and he gets the little text, and he's about to say, like, yeah, I got the guns, and he deletes it, and he closes up the truck. So I don't know if this is him being afraid of the internal affairs stuff because he actually wants his job, or if this is him fearing for everybody, because it's like, these weapons are a big freaking deal. So I don't know which side of it really is, if it's a selfish thing or it's a selfless sort of thing. But that's not going to bode too well for him. I'm sure they already know where he lives. He works for, the big criminal. I'm sure that dude knows where he lives. He's got other cops in there. So they could beat him up, or they could kill him, or something crazy. We've seen that, in Daredevil season 1, cops on the take type stuff. So I don't really know. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But I thought that was interesting. He decided not to do it. And that's not going to work too well for him. He'll probably be dead soon. Who knows? But it was definitely a fun episode. I really enjoyed, like I said, some of the action in it, which at parts was really cool, but other parts were just really freaking funny. I really enjoyed the ending because they have Luke and Cottonmouth sort of confront each other through their eulogies and stuff. And I love the way they did it, where it was like Cottonmouth, people stood up and was like, oh, yeah, that's great. And then Luke does it, and everyone's just standing, and it was just really funny the way they kind of had the little sort of who gives the best eulogy sort of thing. So I was like, all right, that was pretty funny. And he kind of makes things right, and, he helps the woman, and she realizes, like, oh, he's a superhuman, and she was, one of probably like a dozen new people found out that he had powers in this episode. Or maybe not, I guess, because they're pretty much all the same people, so I guess it wasn't really anyone new except for Cottonmouth himself, Shades, and the woman, because those guys, they kind of acted like they didn't understand that he had superpowers. When the dude, like, punched his fist and stuff, it seemed like they would have, relayed that information, like, hey, I punched him in the jaw really hard, and my whole bone came out of my arm, and then he, like, grabbed my pants, and I flew out a window. Like, you think that sort of information would just be like, yep, super something. And then also, as he said himself, Luke said, deductive reasoning, you shoot an RPG, and I'm on the news that night, you should probably consider some part of that is me being superhuman. Like, something there has to be, twisting or working to help you figure that out. But I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm excited to see where they go with it, because Mystic mentions, like, he kind of started World War III, and I don't know, it's really hard to tell where things are going, because we got this stuff with Scarf where he might not actually help Cottonmouth for, like I said, possibly a selfish reason or a selfless reason. We have their whole battle that's supposed to play out, but Cottonmouth can't really do that unless he either, everything works out like it's supposed to, but Scarf, where he kind of just gets the kind of gets an I owe you one sort of thing with Diamondback. Or if that doesn't work, he's going to have to get help from Diamondback. And as Shades mentioned, Diamondback has changed a little bit, so he'll take Harlem. He'll take over Harlem. So there are a lot of different elements. There's a lot of different ways this could go. We got to see Claire as well in this episode, which was a great opening. I really loved the opening to this episode. I really liked this song. It's probably my favorite song so far. I thought the lyrics were really great, and it was just an interesting sound. But it's like it starts off, Luke Cage, he's flipping the stuff, and I mentioned he's just in front of people. So I was like, all right, he's definitely just using his powers. He doesn't really care. And that made me think of Jessica Jones, because she used her powers on, like, it was some random dude. And he was like, you're superhuman and stuff. She was like, yeah, I don't really talk about it, but, I don't care if anybody knows. It was just like, whatever. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, then you don't. But he's doing that. She comes into town. It's like, oh, sweet. We finally get to see Claire, because she's in, like, the actual, like, promo image where they show all the characters. She's actually in that. So I thought she'd actually be in it, quite a bit more, instead of, like, showing up, like, almost halfway through, the season. But she shows up and is like, all right, it's nice. She's just coming into town. Instantly, this dude robs her, and she chases him down. That joke was so funny. She beat the crap out of him and then kicked him in the nuts. I was like, that was awesome. Like, watching her do that was so funny. And then we actually get to see her mother and some, her mom's restaurant and stuff like that. So that was really cool, because we finally get to see a more personal side of Claire, and they kind of reference back to Daredevil season 2 about her friend being killed in the hospital and her not having any real sort of options or anything like that as far as being able to go to the police. They're basically like, don't tell the police this craziness happened or you're fired, and you can't work anywhere else in New York. So she's back home for now, and she saw, that Luke was on TV, and her decision is that she wants to go into helping superheroes. She wants to, be the hero to the heroes. And I was like, that's actually very cool. I'm sure it would take quite a while for that to, kind of evolve and, be fully fleshed out. But I was like, that's a really cool idea. And depending on how they, continue on these series, I'd love to see that. Because she is, like, the running thread through all the shows. Like, she shows up, helps Daredevil, showed up in Jessica Jones. I wish I could remember how she ended up showing. I think she was just in the hospital. I think it was the same sort of thing. It was just, she's in the hospital, and, she ends up helping them. And it was kind of like, okay, well, I helped this dude who's blind, but he can see and all this other stuff. So I'm kind of okay, helping them out. So she's that running thread, and I'm excited to see where they take her character. I don't know much about her. I don't know if she's a character, in the comics or anything like that. The only other character I can even relate her to is Jane Foster from, like, Thor. And in the movie, she's very different than what I know her as, because she's like a doctor. She's like a paramedic, from what I know her as before I knew her from, like, the cinematic version of the character in the Thor movies and stuff. So that's kind of how I see Claire in this, is that she's like the paramedic who's kind of wrapped up in this the superhero world, and she's totally cool with it. And I'm kind of excited to see, where they take her character, and, how she kind of factors into the overall universe and stuff. Maybe she'll be all over the Defenders and stuff. Every time they get beat up, she's like, all right, let me stitch this and do that and stuff. So who knows what they're going to do, but I was glad to see her. Great intro for her. Like I said, probably definitely my favorite song that they've had so far. I thought it was just a really cool song. But really great episode. Excited to see exactly how this craziness plays out with Scarf, because Cottonmouth doesn't really mess around too much. He's especially now, he's kind of losing it, because Luke is actually beating all his people up and calling them out, or kind of calling them out. But I'm excited to see where it goes. Naturally, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And this, I would say, was truly the first episode where Luke was going full hero. So I would love to know how you guys feel about that. And I think it'll get, even greater as the, rest of the season plays out. But I thought this was a really cool start, where he's, walking around. It's like, all right, Pop's funeral is at the end of the night. I gotta help these people, though, because Cottonmouth is telling everyone to come to me, and I'll understand why, everything bad is happening to them. So he has to go out and not only save his name, but really save the people of Harlem and stuff. So that was really cool. It's like, all right, I really enjoyed that. But like I said, I want to know how you guys felt about his first real outing, as Luke Cage, the hero. Not exactly the hero for hire, but just the hero of Harlem at this point. And of course, what you guys thought about the whole episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.